Hello students, welcome to the world of biology through Jaguar classes. In today's class, I will start the chapter 7, Control and Coordination, and in part 1, we will focus on the control and coordination process in animals and humans. And in this also, we will focus on the nervous system's basic unit, that is neuron. And besides that, in this chapter, you will learn about the other parts of the nervous system in later on classes like brain, reflex action, and endocrine system, which is also one of the part of our control and coordination system, and in which we will study about the endocrine glands and hormones. And in plants, the control and coordination is taking place by the plant hormones and by the help of tropic movements and nestic movements. All these parts you will study in later on classes. Today we will focus on the neuron as a basic structure and functional unit of our nervous system, and we will focus on its structure and functional part. After today's class, the learning outcomes which are knowledge based, in which you will be able to define control and coordination as life process in living beings, its importance, and you will be able to define response, stimulus, neuron, nerve impulse and receptors. You will be able to differentiate between sensory and motor neurons, and side by side you will be able to explain and describe the different parts of neuron and their functions. You will also able to compare different types of receptors to show different responses in animal or humans. Skill-based learning outcomes that will cover after our today's class. You will be able to use your drawing skills to show different parts of neuron and their functions with the help of neat and labeled diagram. You will also be able to utilize your listening and writing skills to comprehend and write answers of different questions which are asked on the taught topics in today's class. For today's class, as we know that today we are starting the chapter 7, Control and Coordination, and this part 1. First of all, we will start with the introduction that what is exactly the coordination. Coordination is the process through which two or more organs of the body interact and complement the functions of each other. On the other hand, integration is a process which makes two or more organs to work as a functional unit in harmony to carry out some vital functions of the body, about which you have already studied in previous chapter 6, that is nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. All these functions are running in a coordinated manner in our body. Now, let's start with the presentation. In this slide, you can know about that. Why is coordination required in living organism? As the complexity of the individuals, plants or animals increases, the different cells and organs become separated from each other by greater distance. Thus, it becomes necessary to have a system by which the different parts of the organisms can function as a single unit. This is possible only if the different parts can coordinate with each other and carry out a particular function. That's why the coordination of different organ systems and different parts of our body is required to run the body in a proper manner. Now, control and coordination in animals is basically taking place by the two important systems, and it is brought about especially in all animals with the help of these two systems. One of the important system is known as nervous system, which is responsible for the neural control and coordination, and the another important system is endocrine system, which is responsible for the hormonal control of our body functions. And as you know that an essential features of living things is their ability to detect changes in their environment. They also exhibit responsiveness to external stimuli by this nervous system, or we can say that one of the fundamental characteristic feature of the body, that is, or all the living things, is response to stimuli. Now come to know more about this nervous system. The nervous system of an animal is composed of specialized cells called neurons or nerve cells, or we can say that these are the basic structural and functional unit of our nervous system, which can detect, receive and transmit different kinds of stimuli. And the main functions of these neurons are to receive the information from environment in the form of stimulus and to receive the information from various body parts and to act accordingly through muscles and glands. Now, because in today's class we are focusing on the basic structure and functional unit of our nervous system, that is nerve cell, we will start with this slide, that what is a nerve cell and how it functions. Nerve cells or neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. There are billions of nerve cells make up our brain, and in class 9th you have already studied. It is basically made up of our nervous tissue, and a nerve cell is a microscopic structure consisting of three major parts, namely cell body and dendrites and axon. These are the three important parts of the nerve cell. These are known as cell body, cyton, dendrites and axon. Now we will learn about these parts. Here in this figure or in this diagram, you can recall your class 9th. In class 9th also you have studied this structure of the nerve cell. These are the branch-like structures known as dendrites, which are receiving the stimulus from the outside or from the other body parts, and then these stimulus are moving towards the main cell body. Here it is the nucleus of this main cell body, and this is the main cell body, and this elongated part in beaded form or beaded structure is known as the axon part, and through which now this stimuli get converted into nerve impulse or impulse, and then it will transmit along this whole neuron, and then it get transferred from this neuron to another neuron with the help of these axon terminals or roots of the we can say that roots of the nerve or nerve ending. And here is the myelin sheath and Schwann cells, which are the specialized structures present in that axon. And what is a nerve impulse? Just now we have taken the name nerve impulse. The conduction of stimuli by the nerve cell. And what is a stimulus? Stimuli is the plural of the stimulus, and stimulus is the change, whatever change in our environment which is detected by our sensory cells are known as stimuli. And these changes in the form of stimuli conducted by the nerve cell, and that conduction process or that conduction wave is called as nerve impulse. And the dendrites will receive the stimuli from the receptors or sense organs and conduct the same as electrical impulse to the axon through the cyton. At the synapse, what is synapse? Synapse is the junction between two neurons or a neuron and receptor cell. the synaptic knobs at that particular synapse or that junction release out some chemical substances which are called as neurotransmitters, which convert the electrical impulse into chemical impulse and pass it to the neighboring neuron. In that way, at that synaptic junction, the nerve impulses get transferred from one neuron to another neuron. That means, how can you define the synapse word here? The point of contact between the terminal branches of axon of one neuron with the dendrite of another neuron is called synapse. And at that synapses, there are various neurotransmitters are present which help in this transfer of electric impulse to chemical stimulus, or or that chemical stimulus is further converted into electrical signal. And reflex arc, the path through which nerve signals involves in a reflex action travel is called the reflex arc. About the reflex arc, you will study in later on classes of this chapter. Today we will focus on mainly the nerve cell and structure and its function, and what are the different parts of the nerve cell that we are talking about in now. That the neural system is the control system of body, which consists of highly specialized cells called neurons, and the sensory neurons detect and receive information from different sense organs with the help of receptors in the form of stimuli, and transmit the stimuli to our central nervous system through the sensory nerve fiber. And in that CNS, the processing of information is done and a conduction is drawn. Now, we will learn more about the structure of that specialized cell, neuron and neuromuscular junctions. How does it work? Now, with the help of this video, you will be able to understand the important parts and the structure and function of the typical neuron.
In our body, the nervous system serves as a communication network that carries information or messages to and from different parts of the body. The nervous system is composed of brain, nerves, and spinal cord. The different parts of the nervous system are formed of highly specialized cells called neurons. Neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. A neuron is made up of a cell body, dendrites, and an axons.
Now, see that.
The cell body is the swollen part of a neuron. It is also called perikaryon or soma or cyton. The cell bodies of the neuron are found in the ganglia and gray matter of the brain and spinal cord. The cell body contains the nucleus surrounded by cytoplasm or neuroplasm. Neuroplasm includes typical cellular organelles such as Golgi complex, Nissl bodies, and mitochondria. The cell bodies of neurons are of various shapes depending upon their location and function in the body. They may be spherical, oval, stellate, and pyramidal in shape. A large centrally placed spherical nucleus is present in the cell body of each neuron. The nucleolus within the nucleus is distinct and can be easily identified. Occasionally, in some cell bodies, more than one nucleus may be present. The neuroplasm is the basophilic cytoplasm of the cell body, which is present within the cell membrane of the cell body. The neuroplasm of the cell body contains the Nissl bodies, neurofibrils, and other cytoplasmic organelles. Click each part to know about it.
Now here, try to know more about
The neuroplasm of the cell body has all the typical cell organelles such as mitochondria, Golgi bodies, and endoplasmic reticulum.
Now know about what are neurofibrils.
Neurofibrils are tiny filaments. They are present in the cell body and extend into the dendrites and axon.
Is it clear? Now come to know about Nissl's bodies.
Nissl bodies are the large granular bodies found in the neurons. They are found scattered in the neuroplasm throughout the cell body except axon hillock.
I think all these parts of neuron.
The cell body receives the electric potential or impulse from the dendrites and transmits them to the axons. It also plays an important role in the regeneration and degeneration of a neuron.
With that, you are clear about these important parts of the cell body of the neuron?
The processes are the fine fibers that initiate from the cell body of the neuron. There are two types of processes: dendrites and axon. Dendrites are short and highly branched processes which originate from the cell body. A dendrite is thick at its origin and tapered towards the end. Structure of a dendrite is the same as cell body. There can be multiple dendrites on a cell body and they are usually non-myelinated. Dendrites act as afferent processes and conduct electric impulse from outside the cell body. In some dendrites, the plasma membrane of dendrites contains many receptor sites for receiving chemical messengers from other cells. An axon is a long, thin and cylindrical, unbranched process which arises from the cell body of a neuron. Axon is generally a long cylindrical process of uniform thickness and is single in number. It originates from the cone-shaped elevation of the neuron called axon hillock. Click each part to know about it.
Now know about the exoplasm.
The axoplasm is the cytoplasm of the axon cylinder. The axoplasm is similar to neuroplasm and contains neurofibrils, mitochondria, and other organelles. The Nissl bodies are absent in the axoplasm.
Now know about axolemma.
The axon cylinder is covered by a thin tubular membrane called axolemma.
Now, what is the axon terminal?
The terminal of an axon from which the branches emerge out is called the axon terminal.
With that, we have
Often, the axons of some neurons are covered with the sheath of phospholipid or lipid. The sheath of phospholipid is called myelin sheath or medullary sheath. The nerve fiber which has myelin sheath is known as myelinated nerve fiber or medullated nerve fiber. The axons of nerve fibers which are not covered by myelin sheath or medullary sheath are called non-myelinated nerve fiber or non-medullary nerve fiber. The myelin sheath does not cover an entire axon completely. The place where myelin sheath is absent looks condensed and is called node of Ranvier. Nodes of Ranvier play an important role in rapid conduction of nerve impulse through myelinated fibers. Also, branching of neuron takes place through nodes of Ranvier. Myelin sheath provides mechanical support and electrical insulation to the axon. The cytoplasm of special types of nucleated cells surrounds the myelin sheath. These cells are called Schwann cells. Schwann cells are closely related with the nervous tissues of the nervous system. The neurolemma or sheath of Schwann is the outer nucleated cytoplasmic layer of the Schwann cell which encloses the myelin sheath. The neurolemma is found on all the nerve fibers that lie outside the central nervous system. The axons are the efferent processes of the nervous system. Axons receive electrical impulse from the cell body and transmit it to the nearest neuron through the synapse. The axons transmit electrical impulse to the muscles through neuromuscular junction. Let us summarize what we have learned so far about the neuron and its structure and functions.
Now this is the summary of this presentation in which you have studied about the neurons as structural and functional unit of nervous system. And you already know that neurons are the longest cell in the body. Human neural system has about 100 billion neurons and majority of the neurons occurs in the brain, nearly 2 billions. And fully formed neurons never divide and remain in the interphase, means they are not going under the division process. And in this presentation you are now clear about, after this presentation, that a neuron cell is have two important part. One is cell body, that swelling portion of the neuron which is also known as cyton, and the processes, the fine fibers that originate from the cell body of the neuron which are also known as dendrites, one branch like processes and one long elongated beader like structure known as axon. And here you have seen that the three important parts of that uh, cell body that we have already discussed in the presentation. And dendrites, they act as the afferent processes, and they are usually short and highly branched processes that originate from the cell body. On the other side, axon part of the neuron is the long cylinder process that originates from the axon hallux, and the axon of some neurons are covered with lipid layer which is known as myelin sheath. Schwann cells, also the typical type of structures, or which are the special cytoplasmic nucleated cells which cover myelin sheath. And neurolemma is the membrane present outside the central nervous system which covers the Schwann cells. Axon acts as the afferent processes, and in that way in today's class you have understood, I think you will be able to understood clearly about the structure part of the neuron and function of the neuron as a structural and functional unit of neuron. And in next class we will discuss about the other facts related with that uh, control and coordination. With that, I'm ending our today's class here. Thank you and have a nice day.